What is the best skin for every champion in League of Legends? Well, a while ago, I asked thousands of you this exact question in a survey, and these were the results. Which, by the way, thank you so much to all those who took the time to respond. Also, a quick disclaimer, the survey was taken almost 2 months ago, so any new skins that came out between now and then will not be a part of this video. However, if you do feel strongly that one of the new skins is the best for a champion, let me know in the comments, and if enough people agree, I'll do a poll on my community page. Also, as you can see, this video is massive, and it took me forever to make, so if you could take a second to hit that sub button and help me get closer to 200k subs, I would seriously appreciate it. Anyways, welcome to the second episode of Chosen by You, and let's get into things. Starting off with Aatrox. The best skin according to all of you is Blood Moon Aatrox with 26.6% of the votes, but the split overall was actually fairly even. The next closest was Mecha Aatrox with 18.2%, and then right behind that was Prestige Blood Moon Aatrox with 14.4% of the votes. Now, Blood Moon Aatrox is a pretty cool skin. I feel like a lot of people also picked him for his splash art more than the actual skin itself, because while the skin is good, the splash art is just amazing. I mean, look at this. Still, even just looking at the skin itself, it's still a pretty nice skin. Hey, really quick, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor for today's video, Gel Blaster. More specifically, I'm talking about their Gel Blaster Surge, and instead of just talking about it, I wanted to do this instead. Here's your glasses. Alright guys, as you can see, the Gel Blaster Surge is pretty freaking fun, and there are a lot of different ways you can play it, but personally, I just like to use it for stress relief. The Gel Blaster Surge has two modes, single fire and full auto, which you can change by just flipping the blaster mode switch here. It's super easy to charge with the USB-C cable, and the gellets are really easy to make. You literally just add water. So go get yourself the Gel Blaster Surge, and if you use my link in the description and use code OUTSIDEJOKE10, you'll get 10% off your Gel Blaster order. Thanks again, Gel Blaster, for sponsoring this video, and now back to the video. Next up is Ahri. By an overwhelming margin with almost 50% of the votes, Spirit Blossom Ahri was voted as the best skin for her. It honestly wasn't even close. Toven Ahri was the only other skin to even show up percentage-wise on the graph. I feel like Spirit Blossom Ahri is just one of those skins that is so clean. Like, everything about it feels and looks amazing. The visual effects look incredible, the animations are crazy smooth, and how can anyone hate on the Home Guard's Fox running animation? Still, I have to admit, I didn't think it would be this unanimous because she has like a billion skins to choose from, but clearly Spirit Blossom Ahri is just on its own level. Akali. Like Ahri, Akali has a lot of skins, but with 27.3% of the votes, Star Guardian Akali was the clear winner for her. Next closest was True Damage Akali and the KDA skins, and it's also worth mentioning if you combine the KDA votes together, KDA was actually a solid second place winner. Still, Star Guardian Akali is definitely a top tier skin, and in my opinion is one of the best legendary skins as well. Some of her animations, like her passive when she spins her Kog'Maw or ultimate animation, just like incredible. Not to mention all her amazing interactions she has with Umi the Stingray. Though I will say her death animation is just a bit too sad. Overall, a great skin though. Akshan. Just to be straightforward here, there are only 3 options for Akshan, including his original skin. But out of those 3, you all chose Crystal Rose Akshan to be the clear winner with almost 50% of the votes. I mean, I think it's a good skin. Like, it has decent animations and effects, and it looks pretty good, especially with some of the chromas, but I also think it was the least bad skin in this case. Successfully beating out Cyberpop Akshan and the original Akshan honestly wasn't the biggest achievement in the world, also considering the base skin actually beat Cyberpop as well, but nevertheless, it's still a pretty good skin, and I have to admit, his little head movement he does when he laughs is pretty great. Alistar. Holy crap, this was a blowout. The crazy thing is Alistar actually has a fair amount of skins, but damn, just no one can compete with Mukau Alistar, I guess. We're also so close to 69% of the votes too, but yeah, not too much to say on this one. I mean, the next closest was Black Alistar with 7.6% of the votes, but Mukau Alistar is just too good. And of course, we all know it's thanks to his beautiful, beautiful cowbell. I still can't believe they actually had to nerf this thing at one point, but anyways, yeah, it's a great skin. It's one of the best skins out there. I'm glad he was voted to be the best here. Amumu. Amumu's was actually fairly close and has a lot more skins than I thought too, but the best Amumu skin chosen by all of you was Porcelain Amumu with 22.1% of the votes. And a fairly close second place was Infernal Amumu, and then Pumpkin Prince Amumu and Surprise Party Amumu right behind. Porcelain Amumu is a pretty great skin though, I have to admit. It's probably one of the most creative skins out there by Riot too. The visuals are definitely some of the cleanest out there of all the Amumu skins, and the Porcelain sounds are a nice touch as well. Plus the dude's even smiling on the splash art, so how can you say no to that? Anivia. Anivia had a fairly even split between a few skins, but overall the best skin was voted to be Papercraft Anivia with 26.9% 83% of the votes. Honestly, I think it's a great skin. However, personally, I think it's a little surprising that it was voted to be the best since there are so many other good ones here as well, but it's still a pretty unique design. I mean, the geometric shapes and the builds look really cool, and honestly, I think the chromas really help sell the skin too. I will say though, I think there were some missed opportunities to make her fold up for some of her emotes or something, but it's still a pretty solid skin. Annie. The best Annie skin goes to Fright Night Annie, but barely. The anniversary skin was actually right behind with only 0.6% less of the votes. Still, the Fright Night skin did barely squeeze it out. I mean, it's a pretty nice skin. The aesthetics are really nice and it's definitely unique, but I don't think it's anything too fancy. With that being said, it's still a cool skin, and fun fact, a lot of people actually think the skin was inspired by the game Don't Starve and Tim Burton, who, if you aren't aware, is the filmmaker for The Nightmare Before Christmas and all these other movies too. Pretty cool. Aphelios. The best Aphelios skin was voted to be Spirit Blossom Aphelios with over a third of the votes. And yeah, it's a pretty nice skin. Everything's super sharp, the sounds are pretty buttery, the visuals are great, and yeah, that's pretty much all I gotta say about it. I mean, Riot usually does a great job with the Spirit Blossom skin line, so no disappointments here. The one and only Ashe. The best voted Ashe skin was High Noon Ashe with almost 40% of the votes. It was actually a fairly tight race between High Noon Ashe and Project Ashe, which isn't too surprising because I feel like it's almost common knowledge for all League players, not just Ashe players, that these are the best Ashe skins. Still, High Noon Ashe did take the win by a fair margin, and then after in third place was Fey Dragon Ashe. After that, no one really came close. Anyways, yeah, High Noon Ashe is a really great skin, and I think the reason people like it so much is because it honestly makes it feel like she's stronger and things are just smoother as well. Like her auto attack animations just feel easier to use with this skin. Honestly, Project Ashe has a very similar vibe too, which is why I think they were both voted so much higher than the others. But yeah, I think they're both really clean skins, but High Noon Ashe is definitely deserving of the #1 spot. Aurelion Sol. With only 4 skins to choose, the best ASOL skin was by far Storm Dragon Aurelion Sol, absolutely destroying the other skins with 70.5% of the votes. And honestly, how could it not? I mean, it's a great looking skin, and don't get me wrong, I think that's a big selling point of it. But I think what really seals the deal here for people is the fact that there's a 1% chance that Lee Sin falls out of the sky from his ult. It's kind of hard to beat that. Azir. This was actually a pretty close battle and mainly a 3-way race, but in third place was the world's 2022 Azir skin with 17.3% of the votes. In second place was Warring Kingdoms Azir, actually a really sick skin too, with 25.5% of the votes. And in first place was the Elderwood Azir skin with exactly 1/3 of the votes, or 33%. And yeah, it makes sense. It's just a really well-rounded skin with its effects and designs, and it looks good. Not fantastic or incredible, I'd say, but it's very solid. Bard. The winning skin for him was Snow-A-Day Bard with 31% of the votes, and I'm not surprised at all on why this was chosen as the best. I mean, have you seen the animations where he goes through the portal and turns into a penguin? It's just too good. Plus, the penguins in general just make everything so much better. I may be a little biased here since I love penguins, but I am really happy that this was determined to be the best Bard skin in the game. Bel'Veth. This was a pretty tough one because everyone had to choose from all 2 of her skins, which included her original. Ironically enough, though, the original won and beat out the battle boss Bel'Veth with 54.4% of the votes. And yeah, after looking at it closer, it's hard to argue with you all because the battle boss Bel'Veth skin is just a bit underwhelming. I mean, it's a cool idea, just apparently not as good as the original. Blitzcrank. Holy shit. This was another absolute blowout. Blitzcrank also has a decent amount of skins, but just none compared to the Space Groove Blitzcrank skin, who had an overwhelming 47% of the votes. I mean, it wasn't even close, but to be fair, was it even really up for discussion to begin with? I mean, look at them. They're just too freaking cute. This is easily one of Riot's best skin line ideas, and it was beautifully constructed with Blitz too. The only other skin that came close with 16.5% of the votes was definitely not Blitzcrank, and I Blitzcrank with 8.8%, but everyone else didn't even register on the radar. Space Groove Blitzcrank is just too good. Brand. Slightly similar to Blitzcrank, one skin definitely stood out here with 34.7% of the votes, and that would be Zombie Brand. In second was Eternal Dragon Brand, and in third was Debonair Brand. Zombie Brand winning here so hard wasn't too shocking, as it's definitely unique compared to the others, and it's pretty impressive on how the animations on the skin have actually held up, especially for it being 7 years old. And honestly, it's probably one of the few legendary skins from back in the day that actually deserved the title legendary. Braum. This one was actually fairly close. In third with 21% is Crime City Braum. In second is Pool Party Braum with 21.4%, and in first with 27.9% of the votes is Santa Braum. Honestly, I don't really have too much to say about this one. The skin has an amazing home guard animation, it's a great concept overall, and it's definitely a great skin in general. Caitlyn. Holy crap, she has a lot of skins, but the winner out of all of them was Battle Academia Caitlyn with just under a quarter of the votes. The only 3 other skins that came even close to contesting was Pool Party Caitlyn with 19.7%, Snow Moon Caitlyn with 13.9%, and Pulse Fire Caitlyn with 13.8%. I think it's safe to say though that the thing that really gave the edge to the Battle Academia Caitlyn was the the alt animation. Even if you don't like anime, it's hard to deny that this is pretty sick. Camille! The winner for the best skin here is Arcana with 32.8% of the votes. Very close behind though was Coven Camille with 29.4%. Honestly, I don't got too much to say with this one as well. Arcana Camille is just a great looking skin, and the skin line itself is great as well. Overall though, it's pretty solid all around, and also has a pretty nice splash art too. Cassiopeia, the winner for the best Cass skin with an overwhelming margin with 61.9% of the votes goes to Spirit Blossom Cass. No one else was even close. Honestly, this was probably one of the biggest blowouts on this entire list. As stated before, Riot always does a great job with the Spirit Blossom skin line, and Cass was no exception here. The effects are great, the sounds are clean like on the W when it hits the ground, and the details are pretty nice too. Honestly, I kind of had my assumptions that the skin was going to win, but definitely not by that much. Pretty crazy though. Cho'Gath. There are 4 skins that kind of competed for the top spot here. In 4th was Darkstar Cho'Gath with 18% of the votes. In 3rd was Shanghai Scrolls with 19.1%. In 2nd was Covenant Cho'Gath with 21.6%. And finally, the winner with 27.9% of the votes was actually Gentleman Cho'Gath. Now, obviously, Gentleman Cho'Gath doesn't have the same effects as newer skins does today, but sometimes you just can't beat the classics, and Gentleman Cho'Gath is definitely one of those. I mean, after all, it was the 2nd legendary skin to ever be created. Corki. By an overwhelming margin, Corki rightfully claimed the #1 spot with 59.2% of the votes. It really wasn't even a contest. The only other skin there to even register on the graph was Arcade Corki. Overall though, yeah, I feel like this one was a given. You just can't go wrong with the twerking Corki skin. Darius. This was probably the closest head-to-head on this list. God King Darius and Dunkmaster Darius were the clear favorites here, but God King Darius ended up taking the win with 47.1% of the votes. I gotta say though, I'm slightly surprised Dunkmaster Darius didn't win this because it's such a classic, but God King Darius is also a pretty great skin as well. Diana. Another overwhelming victory here, and that goes to her Winter Blessed Diana skin with almost exactly 50% of the votes. I suppose this one does make sense though, since she's the only Diana skin to actually affect the map when she gets a pentakill, and more specifically, she also seems to be the only hope of ever seeing a winter map in this game ever again. Dr. Mundo. Holy sh**. Corporate Mundo obliterated its competition with 80% of the votes, and it's not even like he doesn't have a fair amount of skins to choose from. I guess it's just that much better than the rest, which is fair. The animations are fine, but honestly, I think what really sells it are the voice lines. His home guard animation of him driving around in his car is also pretty great. Plus, Corporate Mundo is just kind of a staple in the Mundo community. Honestly, I don't think any of the others had much of a chance to begin with. Draven, or more specifically, Draven, who pulled away from the others with 32.9% of the votes. Pretty solid victory. Honestly, the first time I saw this skin, I thought someone was hacking the game because I thought it was a little too good. But when I figured out it was actually a real thing, I was pretty surprised. Needless to say, it's a pretty great skin. Probably one of the best April Fool's skins released as well. Ekko. Another landslide victory, but this time for true damage Ekko. Honestly, I feel like this skin makes people who don't even play Ekko want to play Ekko because of how smooth it is. I mean, look at that recall animation. Just everything about the skin is ridiculously solid. Also, in case you were curious, Firefly Ekko and Project Ekko were the only others to even get on the board. Elise. This was a battle. There were 3 contenders here, but 2 of them went head to head. However, in the end, Withered Rose Elise just narrowly pulled out the victory from Bewitching Elise by 0.5%. And then Blood Moon Elise wasn't too far behind either with 18.9% of the votes. Honestly, I think the Withered Rose Elise skin is a great skin, but I still think there's a lot of potential here to make an even better skin. Like, I feel like a Coven Elise skin would be pretty sick. Evelynn. Speaking of the Coven skin line, Coven Eve was the clear winner here with 39.4% of the votes. Honestly, I was kind of shocked that she won by so much. I kind of figured that some of the other skin lines like Spirit Blossom or KDA would contest a little closer. However, it is a very fitting theme for her. I will say though, looking at her lashers triggered my trypophobia a bit, but she was the clear winner here, so I can't argue too much. Ezreal. It's kind of ridiculous how many skins this guy really has, but surprisingly, there was one skin that significantly stood out among the other 200 skin he has, and that was Battle Academia Ezreal with 29.8% of the votes. And second was Porcelain Protector with 14% of the votes, and then close behind that was Pulsefire Ezreal with 12.9% of the votes. Going into this one, I honestly wasn't too sure what to expect on the outcome here. I definitely thought Pulsefire Ezreal was going to be somewhere up here just because ultimate skins and whatnot, but I'm definitely not surprised to see Battle Academia winning either. It's got a lot of cool animations, details, and some fun little Easter eggs too, so I guess it's kind of hard to argue against it being a worthwhile winner. Fiddlesticks. This was surprisingly a battle between just 2 skins, and the overwhelming victor was Surprise Party Fiddlesticks with 54.2% of the votes. The only other contender was Star Nemesis Fiddlesticks with 24.1% of the votes. Everyone else was basically irrelevant, which I mean, fair enough. It's hard to beat a skin like Surprise Party Fiddlesticks when the skin comes with a dance like this. Plus, there aren't many skins that you can yell happy birthday before a gank and have it make sense. Seriously though, it's definitely a classic, but I'm slightly shocked that none of the other skins even came close. I feel like Fiddlesticks is actually one of the champions that has a few other decent ones. Next up is Fiora. This was actually a pretty even split, but the winner by just a margin was Pool Party Fiora with 18.3% of the votes. In second place was Project Fiora with 16.7%, and in third was Soaring Sword Fiora with 14.9%. I was a sad Fiora player. I gotta say that these were definitely on the top of my list as well. I might have put Soaring Sword above Project, but regardless, both were for sure in my top 3. And I will say I'm not shocked to see Pool Party Fiora being picked at the top. No, but seriously, I mean, who doesn't like slapping people with wet noodles? It's got some pretty great animations like sword fighting a crab on the recall, it's got some great chroma options, and it's a pretty unique skin overall. What I will say is that I'm glad the Prestige Lunar Beast Fiora skin wasn't put high up, because for Prestige skins, I feel like it's one of the most disappointing ones out there, which sucks because I really had high hopes for it originally. Anyways, moving on to Fizz. Actually, another pretty even battle here, but overall the winner here was Fizz with 22.3% of the votes. In second place was Little Devil Fizz with 15.7%, and in third was pretty much a tie between Omega Squad Fizz and Fisherman Fizz. Overall though, I think Fuzz Fizz is a pretty fair choice. I think dog themed skins will always have people's hearts. The only downside is that he still says Fizz lines as a dog, which is interesting. I feel like it would have been 10 times better if he just barked, but what do I know? Still a great skin though. Also, I'm not one to judge, but I thought I'd just point out that 11 of you thought Atlantean Fizz was the best Fizz skin in the game. You know, again, no judgment, just thought I'd point it out. Galio. The best voted skin for Galio was Birdio by a decent amount with 36.2% of the votes. And the only other skin to really contest was Gatekeeper Galio with 21%. You know, I honestly don't have too much of an opinion on this one, but I'd say Birdio is a fair choice. I mean, realistically, Gatekeeper Galio probably has the better animations and whatnot, but the Birdio skin has the passion. I mean, getting to ult as a flying chicken is a pretty big win. I definitely think the right choice was made here. Gangplank. This was one of the closer head-to-heads that we've had, and it really comes down to just 2 skins here. The winner by only 1.7% was Pool Party Gangplank with 26.4% of the votes. Right behind that was Gangplank the Betrayer with 24.7% of the votes. I feel like Pool Party Gangplank is a classic among the Pool Party skin line, so I'm not too surprised here, but I gotta say, I personally think Gangplank the Betrayer is a little bit better. Luckily for all of you, my opinion in these types of videos are worth jack sharing. Honestly, I didn't expect this at all, but yeah, it was a blowout. God King Garen absolutely destroyed everyone else, taking home 63.6% of the votes. The only other skin to even make an appearance on the chart was Demacia Vice Garen with 11.4%. Honestly, I kind of figured God King Garen was going to win because, let's be honest, it's a freaking nice skin. I swear to God, it makes you feel like you have a buff in terms of tankiness and damage, or at least it feels that way when you're playing against it. More importantly, it of course also has a lap line. The animation team really made it hard to hate this skin. Still, I thought it would at least give the other skins a small chance to maybe contest it for the title. Some of them aren't even that bad too, like Warren Kingdom's Garen is a sick skin. Nevertheless, it turns out that God King Garen is just too good. Gnar. Unlike Garen, Gnar was actually pretty close, but the winner with 23.4% of the votes was Gentleman Gnar. Very close behind that was Elderwood Gnar with 21.8% of the votes. Now, animation-wise, I think it's pretty obvious that Gentleman Gnar isn't quite as good as, say, Elderwood Gnar is. However, sometimes it's more than just the animation, like in this case, where it's just more about the idea and the legacy. It's either that or you guys are just high as fuck. Gragas. This was actually one of the most even splits we've seen so far, but the winner with 18.9% of the votes was Space Groove Gragas. In second place was Arctic Ops Gragas with 16.3%, and in third was Oktoberfest Gragas with 13.9%. Now I have a few things I want to say. One, I know some of you are going to get mad at me because I didn't put KDA Gragas in the hat. Sorry, not sorry. To be honest, it probably would have won. And two, I'm kind of sad that Arctic Ops Gragas didn't win here. I know Space Groove Gragas is a pretty cool and memey skin, but Arctic Ops Gragas is actually pretty sick. And I also don't think I've ever seen it in a game before either, which is also kind of crazy. Still, at the end of the day, Space Groove Gragas won, so I won't complain too much. Graves. The best voted skin for Graves was Sentinel Graves with 26.8% of the votes, and close behind that was Crime City Graves. For me, I completely agree with this. Sentinel Graves just stands out a bit more than the rest. The animations are so nice and crisp, and I mean, every ability and animation is just so clean. Not to mention, it's slightly pay to win because his reload animations are a bit harder to see. Still, the craziest part about this is his death animation and the Twisted Fate card. Really nice detail by Riot there. Gwen. This was a pretty simple one since Gwen only has 3 skins including her original. But as you can see, Cafe Cuties came up with the W with 54.2% of the votes. Honestly, I think this one was kind of a no-brainer because it was either that, the original, or Space Groove, which, yeah. No. In Cafe Cutie's defense, the theme actually matches Gwen's style pretty well. I mean, it even almost could have been Gwen's default skin. Almost. It does have some great animations too, and it makes her even more doll-like, but overall I think Gwen could still do better. Let's just say it'll be nice to have some more options for her one day. Hecarim. The best skin for the scary horse thing goes to Arcade Hecarim with 26% of the votes. In second was Elderwood Hecarim with 19.8% of the votes, and in third was High Noon Hecarim with 16.3%. Overall, Arcade Hecarim is a pretty great skin. I think my favorite part of it though has to be the Guitar Hero theme. Like the fact you can get star power from using the abilities is pretty cool. Plus all the other animations are pretty great as well. Overall, a solid winner. Next up, the one and only Donger. To no surprise, Dragon Trainer Heimerdinger came up on top with 55.7% of the votes. The only other skin to really take in a few votes was Heimer Stinger with 15.3%. Anyways, yeah, I didn't think it was going to be too close to begin with. I mean, Dragon Trainer is clearly the best Heimerdinger skin. It's hard to beat Dragon Turrets, but it's even harder to beat its dance emote with dancing dragons. Plus, it actually has some pretty sick effects as well. It's honestly probably one of Riot's best skins out there, but we might have to figure that out in another video. Noodle Lady. Honestly, this graph looks almost identical to Heimerdinger's chart, but the best Alawi skin award goes to Snow Moon Alawi with 52.6% of the votes. Even though Alawi doesn't have a lot of skins, Snow Moon Alawi is still pretty nice. I think it honestly gives her a fresh new style and look compared to all the other skins she has. And I mean, it just feels different too, but in a good way. Definitely a solid top choice for the Noodle Lady. Aurelia. I think this is actually one of the most evenly split crafts we've had so far, but the best Aurelia skin goes to Mythmaker Aurelia with 23% of the votes. Also in second place was Divine Sword Aurelia with 14%. Alright, I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I knew this Mythmaker skin even existed before making this video, so I kinda assumed Divine Sword Aurelia was going to take the win here, but I can see why people chose it as the winner. I mean, everything about it's pretty amazing, and the only thing that's kinda missing from it is an auto attack animation since it's a legendary skin after all. But at the end of the day, Aurelia's auto attack animations are already so smooth, I feel like it's okay in this case. Ivern. Now as you can see, Ivern doesn't have too many skins, but the clear winner with 43.4% was Old God Ivern. And then somewhat close behind was Dunkmaster Ivern with 24.6%. Honestly, I think the Old God Ivern skin is pretty good, and I definitely agree that it's his current best skin. I think it would have been Dunkmaster Ivern if his face wasn't so freaking terrifying, and you know, if it wasn't Dunkmaster. I'm just saying, out of all the champions you could have made a Dunkmaster skin for, Ivern wouldn't have been on my first, second, or 100th pick. Either way, Old God Ivern is definitely the best skin, and the only skin that actually makes him feel kind of strong like the lore instead of just, you know, a tree. With that being said, there's still plenty of room for an even better Ivern skin, so hopefully we'll see that in the not so distant future. Janna. This is but another champion that I didn't realize had so many skins, but third place goes to Bewitching Janna with 14% of the votes. And second goes to Prestige Cyber Halo Janna with 14.9% of the votes. And with almost double that, first place goes to the one and only Forecast Janna with 28%. I really wasn't sure how this one was going to turn out because Forecast Janna is a great skin, but it's also a very old skin, even with the VFX updates. So I wasn't sure what was going to prevail here, but it's still pretty clear that the vintage legendary skin still has what it takes to hold on to the best Janna skin title. Jarvan IV. In second place with only 16% of the votes goes to Pool Party Jarvan. But in first place with almost a third of the overall votes goes to Dark Star Jarvan with 30.3% of the votes. And yeah, honestly, it's a pretty sick skin. Not the skin line that I'd specifically expect to be on Jarvan, but I think it works fairly well. The animations, of course, look really good, but I think the part that sells it the best just definitely is recall and ultimate animation. I mean, look how pokey and purple that thing looks. Anyways, yeah, that's all I got from. Moving on to Jax. This was another neck and neck battle between just two Jax skins, but ultimately the best Jax skin title goes to Godstaff Jax with 33.6% of the votes. And after that, in a very close second spot was Mecha Kingdoms Jax. After using both these skins myself, I have to say I think the reason Godstaff Jax is just slightly better is because it feels a lot smoother to use. The animations are just more fluid, and especially when playing with it. Don't get me wrong, Mecha Kingdoms Jax is a sick skin, but it's just a little bit clunky and stiff in my opinion. It's kind of hard to explain until you're actually playing with it. Still, both are great skins, but I definitely agree that Godstaff is the best overall. Except for Jaximus, of course, because, well, if you know, you know.
Here's to you, kid.
Next up is Jace. In second place for the best Jace skin, we have Arcane Jace with 22.5%. But in first place with 30.8% of the votes, we have Battle Academia. It also just so happens that both are probably the more better looking versions of Jace. Coincidence? I think not. Nevertheless, Battle Academia is a pretty sick skin. It has some really cool animations and some really cool 2D visual effects as well that even gives it a bit of an arcade feel to it. Overall, a solid winner. Jhin. Dark Cosmic kinda smacked the crap out of everyone else, taking home the gold with 53.6% of the votes. In other words, all the other skins combined wouldn't have been enough to beat it. After all, that is how math works. Now, as a non-Jhin player, I have to say I thought the split was going to be actually fairly even, since I also thought he had a decent amount of good skins. But apparently I was very wrong. Or right, but underestimated how good Darkstar Jhin really is. And after looking at it in a little more detail, it starts making a bit more sense. After looking closer, this is probably one of the most high quality skins out there that Riot actually seemed to put some love into. Most skins on this list have one or two areas that really help the skin stand out, but this one in particular seems to have it all. It has a great dance emote, amazing ability animations and visuals, crazy attention to detail, and it of course has a great death animation. It really is a fantastic skin and a deserving winner. But 53.6%, man, damn. Jinx. With over a third of the votes, Star Guardian Jinx was voted to be the best skin for her, and the only one to kind of contest was Battle Cat Jinx, specifically the normal one with 11.5%. But if you combine the Prestige and normal Jinx together, they'd have 19.2%. Nevertheless, Star Guardian Jinx still won pretty handedly, and honestly, I kind of saw that one coming. Besides it being one of the OG Star Guardian skins, I feel like everyone and their mom uses this skin, so yeah, it was pretty obvious. Kai'Sa. This was a pretty fun one. In third place was IG Kai'Sa with 18.5%, which is pretty impressive since I feel like you don't see too many world skins that get a ton of love these days. Anyways, in second was Lagoon Dragon Kai'Sa with 16.7%, and in first was Star Guardian Kai'Sa with 24% of the votes. Yeah, I mean, out of all the Kai'Sa skins, Star Guardian Kai'Sa definitely stands out the most in almost every category. Right, really made sure to nail the details and animations with this one, and add on some extra things too, like a full-on HUD. Plus, it's got another really sad death animation, so you get the brownie points too. Kalista. Well, it was kind of close. But Bulb and Kalista barely came up with the win with only 58.6%. Yeah, out of all the other skins, it definitely fits Kalista's style way more than the others. Still, while I was making this, I couldn't help but think this might have been one of the only champions to be affected by a new skin that came out while I was making this, so I put Blood Moon Kalista up against Fairy Court Kalista on my community page, and Blood Moon Kalista still won. So yeah, still the best Kalista skin in the game. Karma, an actual close one this time. In third place was Ruined Karma with 18.6%. In second place was Tranquility Dragon Karma with 21.1%. And I just have to say it's probably the cleanest splash art I've ever seen too. But in first was Darkstar Karma with 24% of the votes. Occasionally, Riot actually does a good job matching skin themes with champions, and I feel like this is one of those times. Over animations are of course really nice too, but what really stands out with this skin is the recall. It arguably has one of the sickest recalls in the game. Imagine if she slightly changed forms every time she back too. Karthus. Surprisingly enough, Karthus only had one skin that stood out as the clear winner, and that was Pentakill Karthus with almost 50% of the votes. To be honest, I don't really keep track of Karthus skins too much, so I didn't know what to expect, but I definitely didn't expect this. Still a pretty cool skin though. Kassadin. The winning skin here by a landslide was Cosmic Reaver Kassadin with 52.8%, over half of the votes. Kind of like Karthus, I don't really know too much about Kassadin skins, but what I do know is whenever I see a Kassadin in the game, I almost see this skin, so it makes sense. And I mean, it's pretty nice. It's clean looking, and it has some nice particle effects too. Katarina. Best Katarina skin by again a pretty unanimous decision goes to Battle Queen Katarina with 41% of the votes. Battle Academia Katarina was the next closest with 14.7%. Honestly, not surprised at all that Battle Queen won here, as Riot put a lot of work into this one. Besides it of course having great animations, it also just feels the best to play out of all the other Katarina skins as well. It just makes things feel smoother and makes you feel stronger. It's really the mental buff that counts. Kale. This was actually crazy close. As you can see, only 4 skins were really in the running here. Psyops and Ether Kale came up just short in third and fourth, but first and second place was so close, with second place going to Pentakill Kale, and in first with just 0.6% more votes being Sun Eater Kale. Now, as much as I like the Pentakill series, I'm so glad that Sun Eater Kale ended up winning here because it's such a good skin. It's so good that I honestly think it could be a legendary skin. I mean, the recall is just sick. The ultimate is pretty cool. There are some changes that I'd probably make, but overall it's a solid winner. Kayn. The best skin for him goes to Odyssey Kayn with 40.8% of the votes. Even though Kayn doesn't have a lot of skins, I feel like the ones he has are actually pretty solid, but Odyssey definitely sticks out. I mean, it did after all have an entire game mode based around it. I wasn't even a big Kayn player back then either, but I remember seeing him in the game mode and immediately knowing I wanted that skin. It's pretty good strategy by Riot and something they should maybe consider more in the future. Now, but seriously, the animations on the skin are incredible, almost over the top in a sense, but in a good way. Kennen. In third place, we have Infernal Kennen with 15.6%. In second place, we have Damwon Kia Kennen with 19.5%. And in first place, we have Blood Moon Kennen with 22% of the votes. I don't really have too much to say on this, other than it has a pretty cool recall animation, so that's neat. And it has a pretty sick splash art, but other than that, I think we'll just move on to the next one. Kha'Zix. In third place was Mecha Kha'Zix with 15.7%. In second place was Death Blossom Kha'Zix with 20.9%. And in first was Dark Star Kha'Zix with 38.9% of the votes. Honestly, I think Kha'Zix's skins are a little outdated in general. I mean, I feel like Mecha skin used to be one of the most popular skins back in the day, but it's just a little bit old now. However, Dark Star Kha'Zix, on the other hand, does hold up fairly well still. Plus, it has a really satisfying evolution sound, which is super random, but nevertheless, we'll take those. Kindred. The undisputed best Kindred skin award goes to Spirit Blossom Kindred with 74% of the votes. That's insane. Also, Kindred's been in the game just under a decade now, so why are there only 5 skins? Nevertheless, I was actually a bit shocked on how much Spirit Blossom Kindred won by. Don't get me wrong, as you can see, it's definitely the best skin. I mean, it's just ridiculously clean. But still, Kindred's got some other pretty solid skins too. I suppose it doesn't matter though, because, well, it's hard to beat this, I guess. Kled. The best Kled skin in the game goes to Count Kledula with 47.4% of the votes. It was definitely the clear winner here, and all his other skins were actually pretty evenly split for second. Anyways, even though Count Kledula is a nice skin, I think Kled also needs a bit of love as well. Plus, I feel like he's one of those champions where you can just get hella creative with. Like maybe you could have a Dragon Trainer Kled where he's right into Dragon, or perhaps reverse Kled where everything's, well, reversed. Anyways, just an idea. Do it. Kog'Maw. This was a crazy one. As you can see, it really came down to only 2 skins. In second place though, we have Pugma with 32.3%, and in first was Bima with 41.6%. The dog themed skins have finally taken their first and probably last L. Anyways, yeah, Bima is a pretty great skin, I have to admit, and probably the cutest Kog'Maw will ever be and should probably ever be. K'Sante. Out of all 3 of his skins, including the original, the best K'Sante skin by actually a pretty narrow margin was Prestige Empyrean K'Sante with 35.3% of the votes. However, it really wasn't that narrow if you consider both Empyrean skins to be one skin. Nevertheless though, Prestige Empyrean K'Sante did still win. With that being said though, there's definitely room for better skins here, maybe like a Mecha K'Sante or Project K'Sante. I don't know. LeBlanc. The best LeBlanc skin goes to Coven LeBlanc with 30.9% of the votes. All of the other skins were fairly evenly split across the board. Honestly though, and I'll probably get some hate for this, I'm not too impressed with Coven LeBlanc. It's a nice skin and it does suit her really well. However, I just think it's not as good as a lot of the other best skins on other champions, especially considering how many skins she has. Like, yeah, obviously that's the case for some of these champions with 3 or 5 skins, but LeBlanc actually has a fair amount. Still, it's not a bad skin, and it's still objectively the best LeBlanc skin out of the bunch. Lee Sin. The number 1 voted Lee Sin skin goes to the one and only Storm Dragon Lee Sin with 40.7% of the votes. Such a good splash art too. The next closest skin, as you can see, was Godfist Lee Sin with 18.9%. Anyways, first off, yeah, Storm Dragon Lee Sin's just such a dope skin, and it's honestly kind of hard to beat. I didn't think anyone was really gonna come close on this one. The emotes are probably some of the best emotes in the game, between the eye laser push-ups and the sick dance moves you can just bust out and spam. The spamming is key. Plus, you know, the abilities and animations are equally as clean, so it's just a winner all the way around. Leona. The second best Leona skin goes to Lunar Eclipse Leona with 21.4%, but the best Leona skin goes to High Noon Leona with 30.4% of the votes. I wouldn't expect a Wild West themed skin with Leona, but Riot somehow made it work. And not just work, but I'd even argue it has some of the prettiest animations in the game, especially for it not being an anime Spirit Blossom type skin. The only beef I have with this is the white horse, because it seems a bit out of place, but everything else is pretty amazing. Lilia. Speaking of Spirit Blossom, the best Lilia skin by far was Spirit Blossom Lilia with 59.4% of the votes. Not too much to say here other than it's just a great Spirit Blossom skin that actually fits pretty well with Lilia's style too, so it works out pretty nicely. After doing a poll on my community page with the newly released Lilia skin for funsies, Shanghai Scrolls was the clear victor over Spirit Blossom Lilia. So ignore everything I just said. I got you, dumbs. Lissandra. Alright, this is kind of a weird one, but was bound to happen eventually, but technically first place in the title of best Lissandra skin goes to Coven Lissandra with 20.8% 100% of the votes. The only reason I say technically is because some may argue Porcelain Lissandra actually won, since if you combine the Porcelain Lissandra and Prestige Porcelain Lissandra together, they would have 36.6% of the votes. So honestly, it probably is the better skin, but for consistency purposes, Coven Lissandra is the winner. Both are great skins though. Lucian. Jesus. All right. Well, as you can see, High Noon Lucian kind of bent everyone else over, taking 68.9% of the votes, with literally no one else even coming close. It's so bad it almost looks like Pac-Man. And rightfully so. I mean, it's hands down one of the best skins, not even just for Lucian, but probably in general. It looks and feels incredibly smooth, and the firing effects are just too clean to beat. A seriously great skin. Lulu. The best Lulu skin goes to Cosmic Enchantress Lulu with 17.1% of the votes. However, similarly to Lissandra, Space Groove Lulu might have won here had there only been one Space Groove option. Either way, Cosmic Enchantress is still a great skin, and it even has a space vibe to it as well. Just actually more space-like and less cutesy. The effects are cleaner anyway, so it works out. Lux. I don't think we really needed to do a poll for this one, but the best skin was without a doubt Elementalist Lux with 49.1% of the votes. What is interesting though is Dark Cosmic Lux actually gave it a pretty good run for its money, taking up 19.1% of the votes still. All the other Lux skins were pretty out of it though. Anyway, since Elementalist Lux is, you know, an ultimate skin and also like 50 other skins at the same time, it kind of makes sense why it won. Not to mention the skin or skins actually have some solid animations and effects as well. I mean, the effort that was put into this thing was literally unrivaled, to the point that Riot almost vowed never to do this again. So I think it's only appropriate that Elementalist Lux takes the win here. With that being said though, I think it really just won since it does have that unique ability to change into other skins, and without it, it would have lost for sure. Dark Cosmic Lux, for example, has much better effects than any one singular form. But again, that's just my opinion. Malphite. I think this was the closest battle on this list, with first and second being only separated by 4 votes. But in third place, we have the one and only Shamrock Malphite with 18.7% of the votes. In second place, Darkstar Malphite with 19.7% of the votes. And in first place was Old God Malphite with 19.9% of the votes. This was seriously so close, but Old God Malphite barely managed to take it, and it had to be the class that won it over, right? Honestly, the first time I saw this, I thought it was a fat Warwick skin, but it turned out to be Malphite. Anyways, I think it was a really good matchup. This skin is so different than Darkstar Malphite, but they both stand out in their own ways. Scary and Creepy just happened to take the win this time. Malzahar. Best skin for Malzahar goes to none other than Bizahar with 41.1% of the votes, more than double any of his other skins. I think it goes without saying that the B skin line is hard to beat, and Malzahar was no exception to it. In addition to it being just a really cute skin, the details were pretty great too, like the little facial expressions on each of the Voidlings, or to be more specific, Beelings. Anyways, moving on to Maokai. This was a two-way race for the most part, but ultimately just a one-way race. In second place, and the only other skin to show up percentage-wise, we have Astronaut Maokai with 26.5% of the votes. And in first, we have Meowkai with 55.7% of the votes. I think I'm detecting a pattern that sometimes it's just not possible to beat cute, which I really already knew, but you know, at least I had to pretend like the other skins had a chance. It's also a good thing the actual skin is cute, because the splash art is kind of terrifying. Master Yi. This was way more split than I was expecting, but ultimately the winner by a fair margin was Project Yi with 24.5% of the votes. The next closest was both the Spirit Blossom Yi skins, and then it was all over the place after that. Anyways, it's only fair Project Yi gets this win, because I don't know how many of you know this, but back then when it was released, it got a login screen, animation, and a song. And the song kind of slapped. You've probably even heard it before. Either way, I know that this stuff doesn't affect how good the skin is itself, but even without all that, it's still a cool skin. It's one of the OG skins I feel like everyone wanted back then, since he was always in everyone's game. Melio. So originally I didn't have Melio in this lineup because the survey was taken before Melio came out, but I did a poll on my channel, so here are the results. As you can see, people hate the Fairy Court skin. And Melio's base skin is officially the best Melio skin in the game. Nice. Honestly, it's fair though. The Fairy Court Melio skin is pretty bad, and Melio's current orange blobs are much better anyways. So hopefully we'll see more Melio skins soon. Misfortune, or in other words, the champion with the most skins in the game, as you can see by the 3 different rows. Anyways, it really only came down to 2 skins, and in second was Gun Goddess Misfortune with 15.9%, and in first was Battle Bunny Misfortune with 27.2% of the votes. I think it goes without saying that the animations on this, in colors and everything, are just straight up incredible. Sometimes it feels like Riot just copies and pastes animations from other skins, but that's definitely definitely not the case here. Everything seems unique, like her walking animation and HUD animation, and it's just overall a really well made skin. Mordekaiser. The second best Mord skin goes to Ashe Graves Mord with 25.6%, and the best Mord skin goes to Project Mordekaiser with 35.9% of the votes. Not too much to say about this one, but it's probably one of the cleanest Project skins. I mean, the colors are just ridiculously vibrant, and the alt graphics are just straight up insane. I mean, you're literally sending someone to Cyberpunk every time you alt. Morgana. In second place, we got Star Nemesis Morgana with 26.4%, and in first is Coven Morgana with 34.1% of the votes. This is hands down one of the best Coven skins in my opinion, to the point it almost doesn't even look like a Coven skin. Nevertheless, it fits Morgana's style so well and really helps sell a witch vibe. Plus, this alt animation is just so clean. Nami. Another pretty split graph all around, but the best Nami skin title goes to Cosmic Destiny Nami with 16.6% of the votes. Arguably though, the Space Groove Nami skins combined had 20.7%, but on paper I'm still going with Cosmic Destiny Nami. To be honest, this skin isn't super flashy or anything, but it does have some pretty great animations. Hey guys, if you're enjoying, please consider poking that sub button, and of course, Puppy. Nasus. In second place goes to Infernal Nasus with 22.8%, and in first, of course, goes to Space Groove Nasus with 34.6% of the votes. There are a few other contenders in there, but Space Groove Nasus is just too good of a skin. Honestly, I think everyone instantly fell in love with these as soon as they saw the splash arts, and for good reason too. Nautilus. The best Nautilus skin goes to Astro Nautilus with 35.5% of the votes. This is such a perfect skin for him, and fun fact, Astro Nautilus is one of the few skins that are actually fan-made since it was released back in 2012. Nico. The best Nico skin goes to Shanghai Scrolls Nico with 31.8% of the votes. To be honest, I'm kind of surprised the Star Guardian skin didn't win, but I'm also kind of glad. It's nice to mix it up once in a while, you know? Overall though, Shanghai is definitely deserving of this win, and the ultimate animation is just so good. The fog effects after are such a nice touch. Nidalee. In second place was Cosmic Huntress Nidalee with 15.4%, but in first was French-made Nidalee with 19.9% of the votes. Yeah, I don't think I really need to say much here other than this skin was clearly voted for its incredible effects and animations, right? Neela. Even though Neela only had one skin, it still lost, and the original Neela won with 54.5% of the votes. That's pretty sick. I mean, usually Star Guardian is good, but I feel like here it was definitely an interesting choice. I feel like they should have gone with something like Space Groove instead. Nocturne. In second place goes to Ethereum Nocturne with 25%, but first goes to Old God or Elderwood Nocturne with 36.1% of the votes. Even though Eternum Nocturne is really popular, Old Groove Nocturne just works so well with them. Plus, everything is just smooth, and the sound effects are pretty great too. Nunu in Willump. In second place, believe it or not, we have Nunu in B-Lump with 28%. And in first is Nunu in Willump Bot with 36.8% of the votes. A B skin has finally been dethroned, and it's only fair that this skin is the one to do it. It's a perfect skin combination of old and new, having really clean updated graphics and animations while also keeping his trolling laugh from the old one. A worthy winner indeed. Olaf. The best Olaf skin by a mile was Brolaf with 44.2%. As you can see, none of the other skins really even came close. Honestly, it's kind of crazy that 11 years later the skin is still on top, and it's really all thanks to the creativity behind it. It's just such a staple in the League community, and the voice lines are just legendary. Another solid win for the classics. Orianna. The best Orianna skin goes to Darkstar Orianna with 40.2% of the votes, and surprisingly enough, it also took down another B skin, or more specifically Orbiana, who had exactly a third of the votes. It kind of makes sense though. Darkstar Orianna just fits with her abilities really well, and it just looks cool. Kind of creepy, but cool. Ornn. The best Ornn skin goes to Elderwood Ornn with 53.9% of the votes. It really is a pretty great skin, and I'm glad Ornn has at least one really solid one. Not that the others aren't good, it's just definitely the best, especially the alt. Pantheon. The best Pantheon skin goes to Dragon Slayer Pantheon with 26% of the votes. Faker Pantheon was a close second with 20.7%, but other than that, it was fairly spread out. Faker Pantheon is definitely a great skin for the memes, but Dragon Slayer is definitely just an overall better skin. It not only looks sick, but the alt animation is probably one of the best in the game. I mean, look at this thing. Poppy. Look how spread out this Poppy graph was. Nevertheless, the best Poppy skin goes to Astronaut Poppy with 22.5% of the votes. Besides it being just a really unique skin all the way around, it's also just full of really great animations like the low gravity walk and recall animation. Pike. In second place was Imperium Pike with 28.2%, and in first was Ashen Knight Pike with 36.7% of the votes. The white and smooth effects make him look so freaking good. Literally everything about this skin is incredible, and as good as Imperium Pike is, this is just just better. Qiyana. Dang, this was pretty even all the way around, but the best Qiyana skin goes to True Damage Qiyana with 22.4%, and the other 15.1% if you count the prestige votes too. There was clearly a lot of thought that went into the skin, and I think one of the coolest parts about it is how every element is like a different shape. Little details like that really help sell this as one of the best. Quinn. The best Quinn skin award goes to Star Guardian Quinn with 35.6% of the votes. Now, I think I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this, but I actually don't really like this skin. I like the Star Guardian skin line, but I just don't think it fits her style at all. It's not opposite enough to be a meme, and it's not cool enough to be cool, so I feel like we're stuck in an awkward middle spot. Anyways, that's just my opinion, and doesn't matter anyways, so let's just move on. Rakan. The number one Rakan skin goes to Star Guardian Rakan with 41.7% of the votes. You see, this Star Guardian skin I like though because it actually looks good and not like it just came out of a My Little Pony convention. The glowing feathers on his back look sick, and the animations are pretty clean too. Overall, I just think it's much better than Quinn. No offense to all you Star Guardian Quinn fans out there. Rammus. The best Rammus skin goes to Astronaut Rammus with 25.5% of the votes. And here's a little glimpse at how the other skins stacked up too. Man, I gotta say though, I love this skin. And the best part about it, hands down, is his spinning Q animation. It just looks so good. Plus, the way he walks around is just fantastic. Besides that, the animations are alright, but between the spinning and walking, that's really all you need. Rek'Sai. The best Rek'Sai skin is Elderwood Rek'Sai with 33.5% of the votes. Pool Party was a close second with 30.4%. I gotta say, I love the way the skin brings out her eyes. But no, seriously, this is a pretty great skin. And a lot more vibrant from an Elderwood skin than normal, but I'm not complaining. Rel. With only 3 options available, the best Rel skin goes to Battle Queen Rel with 37.9% of the votes. Overall, it's an alright skin. Definitely better than the Star Guardian one, but I'm just saying Riot could have put a little more effort in for Rel mains. Renata. Again, with only 3 options, the best Renata skin goes to Fright Night Renata with 63.5%. At least this was more unanimous. It is a pretty nice skin. It's probably not my favorite, but it does have some nice cartoonish style animations, and it's definitely the best Renata skin. Renekton. I have to admit, I'm somewhat bummed that Renektoy didn't win because of how unique it is, but Project Renekton is pretty dang nice. It also just feels like you're getting a buff using the skin, which is always a big plus. Rengar. By an overwhelming consensus, Pretty Kitty Rengar smashed its competition, taking 51.8% of the votes. Yeah, it's... well, you know. Riven. As you can see, another champion with a billion different skins. The second best Riven skin goes to Dawnbringer Riven with 18.7%, and the best Riven skin goes to Spirit Blossom Riven with 22.8% of the votes. Spirit Blossom strikes again. First off though, sick skin splash art, and second off, yeah, it's just a banger of a skin. It's one of those skins that not only looks amazing, but feels amazing to play as well, especially with the autos. Rumble. The best Rumble skin goes to Super Galaxy Rumble with 45.7% of the votes. Pretty understandable considering it is a great skin, and the first skin to not make Rumble look like an ancient piece of history. Now if they just updated his animations, it'd be even better. Or Rumble. Rise. The best Rise skin by a very comfortable margin was Arcana Rise with 32.8% of the votes. I think the thing I love about this skin the most, besides the amazing effects and animations, is the fact it actually makes him look like an OP badass mage. Something the original Blueberry just can't pull off by itself. No offense, Rise. Samira. The best Samira skin easily goes to High Noon Samira with 56.6% of the votes. Honestly, I think the only thing that'd make the skin better is a pentakill animation, since she's neck and neck with Yi with most likely to get a pentakill. Other than that, it's a solid skin. Sejuani. The best Sejuani skin goes to Poro Rider Sejuani with 30.3% of the votes. It may not have the fanciest animations in the world, but it does have 100% of the heart and concept. If they ever do give it custom animations though, it'll be in a league of its own. Senna. The best Senna skin without contest is High Noon Senna with 60.1%. Coming from someone who actually owns this skin, I can personally say the main reason I'd pick this skin over the others is because it just feels easier to play with. The animations are great, don't get me wrong, but it just feels the best out of the other skins too. Seraphine. Okay, this is weird because technically KDA All Out Seraphine Superstar won with 22.7% of the votes. However, Prestige Ocean Song Seraphine was only 0.4 behind with 22.3% of the votes, and if you combine the 16.2% from the normal Ocean Song Seraphine, it'd easily take first. One could argue though that you could do the same with the KDA All Out skin, but those are actually pretty different from one another. However, again, for consistency purposes, I'm giving it to the KDA All Out skin. Set. The best Set skin goes to Spirit Blossom Set with 46.3%. Everything about the skin is great. The recall, the animations, the ult is freaking amazing, but yeah, it's just another great Spirit Blossom skin. Shaco. The best Shaco skin goes to Dark Star Shaco with 31.8% of the votes. Now, I personally try and avoid this Devil Spawn at all costs, but when I do see him in my games, almost everyone's using this skin. Which, I mean, it's a cool skin, but also I think I can see his Q way way easier, so I'm not complaining. A cool skin, but you're also kind of nerfing yourself. Shen. Look at that pie graph, pretty evenly split. However, in second place, just narrowly missing first, we have Pulse Fire Shen with 20.3%. And in first with 21.9% of the votes, we have Shockblade Shen. I think Shockblade is just a bit more fitting to Shen's style out of the two, but both are equally great skins. With that being said though, Shockblade did come out on top. Shyvana. Yeah, so Ruined Shyvana won. And yeah, it's a solid skin and all, but what bugs me the most is that it's already been 2 years since its release with the Ruination. Yeah, just let that sink in. Singed. Another pretty close one here, but first place goes to Beekeeper Singed, who got 56.6% of the votes. I gotta say, this is a weird skin, especially with the recall with the bee popping out. But you know, you guys do you. Scion. In second, we have Lumberjack Scion with 29.8%. And in first, we have Mecha Zero Scion with 37.8% of the votes. Overall, Mecha Zero is a great skin, but the best part by far is the ult transformation. Everyone knows they're screwed when they see that thing flying at their face. Sivir. First off, I didn't realize Sivir had so many skins, but anyways, the best Sivir skin hands down goes to Pizza Delivery Sivir with 40.1% of the votes. I gotta say, I think the thing that impresses me the most with this skin is not just the incredible idea behind it, but the chromas. The fact each of the pizzas change with each chroma is pretty amazing. Skarner. The best Skarner skin goes to Cosmic Sting Skarner with 42.9%, and close behind was Battlecast Alpha Skarner with 35.3% of the votes. I think the animations and effects are similar to a lot of other skins, but it's still pretty solid. Sona. I think most people saw this coming, but DJ Sona was the victor with 44.3% of the votes. I guess that's kind of what happens when you get your own songs, concerts, and trailers just for a skin. It is a good skin though. Soraka. The best Soraka skin goes to Dawnbringer Soraka with 23.1% of the votes. This is probably one of the prettiest skins out there, but more importantly, it shows off the banana. And for that alone, it is deserving of the best Soraka skin title. Swain. The best Swain skin really came down to just two. In second was Crystal Rose Swain with 25.9%, and in first was Dragon Master Swain with 26.4% of the votes. While it may not be the fanciest skin in the game, its concept is pretty top tier, so I can see why it was voted as the best. Sylas. The best Sylas skin goes to Freljord Sylas with 38.2% of the votes. Surprisingly enough, this skin is actually pretty simple, and I think most people just appreciate it because one, it still looks good, and two, it's lore based, which is pretty cool and surprisingly not super common. Why don't they do more skins like that? Anyways, Syndra. The best Syndra skin with 22.3% of the votes goes to Spirit Blossom. However, if you were to combine the prestige skin with the regular one, Star Guardian would have won. Either way, Spirit Blossom is still, as we all know by now, a very good skin. Tom Kench. The best Tom Kench skin goes to Arcana Tom with 42.1% of the votes. It's not a theme I'd expect with him, but it does look pretty good. I think they could have done one a little more relevant to him, but it works out. Talia. First place here goes to Pool Party Talia with 39.1% of the votes. Definitely no arguments here. I think the skin has some of the best animations and effects out of all the skins. Plus, it's literally a waterbender skin. Not to mention the passive animation of her surfing around on a surfboard is just perfect. Talon. The best Talon skin goes to Enduring Sword Talon with 20.4%. The only beef I have with this skin is that he kind of looks like a goober. But other than that, the animations and everything are great, and it's definitely top quality for sure. Taric. In second place, we have Armor of the Fifth Age Taric with 26.9%. But in first, we have Pool Party Taric with 28.3%. It's safe to say that the best part about this skin is hands down the deal with it animation with the sunglasses on his ultimate. It seriously is a true piece of art. Teemo. The best Teemo skin is none other than Little Devil Teemo with 25.6% of the votes. Omega Squad and BMO did give it a good run for its money though. However, Little Devil Teemo should be its original skin anyways, so it really wasn't fair. Thresh. The best Thresh skin goes to Spirit Blossom Thresh with 31.8% of the votes. And as you can see, Darkstar and High Noon were the only ones to really get any other votes. Everyone else didn't really stand much of a chance. But yeah, Spirit Blossom Thresh is just a great looking skin, and I think people like it because it mixes things up a bit compared to his normal style. Tristana. The best Tristana skin goes to Dragon Trainer Tristana with 38.2% of the votes. All the other votes were spread out pretty all over the place. Anyways, the Dragon Trainer skin concept is fantastic, but the most notable part is still the death animation. Easily one of the saddest death animations in the game. Trundle. Trundle had a pretty close matchup at the end, with second going to Dragon Slayer Trundle with 26.2%, but first going to Fright Knight Trundle with 28.2% of the votes. Hard fought for sure, but in the end, I think Fright Knight was just a little more unique. Tryndamere. The best Tryndamere skin goes to Blood Moon Tryndamere with 26.5% of the votes, just beating out Nightbringer with 21.1%. This is a bit hard for me because I actually really like the Nightbringer skin, but Blood Moon's not bad too. Both are still pretty sick though. Twisted Fate. This start was super split, but the best TF skin goes to Crime City Nightmare with 22.8%. Honestly, this skin just makes him look like a badass, and the sounds of him switching cards are so satisfying. The only downside of this is that they didn't make it into a legendary. Twitch. This was a standoff between 3 skins, as you can see here. Everyone else was kind of spread out, but ultimately the victor was Twitch Shadowfoot with 22.1%. It just barely beat out Crime City and High Noon. I'm actually really happy Shadowfoot won here just because I think it's a nice breath of fresh air. Plus, they even changed his voice to match the skin, which is pretty cool.
Sneaking around really works up your appetite.
Udyr. Yeah, Spirit Guard Udyr won. 60% of the votes. Pretty expected if I do say so myself. I mean, it is an ultimate skin after all. Plus, they actually did a pretty good job with the update too. I especially like how all the forms have their own little dance. Urgot. The best Urgot skin, of course, goes to Pajama Guardian Cosplay with 38.1%. This will still probably go down as one of the greatest acts Riot has ever done for the community. Varus. The best Varus skin goes to Darkstar Varus with 28.9%. And another amazing Darkstar skin, but I got to admit, I got some beef with the bow. It might just be me, but it's kind of weird. Vayne. The best Vayne skin really came down to Sentinel Vayne and Project Vayne, but Project Vayne took the dub with 29.2% of the votes. All the other Vayne skins were pretty spread out besides Spirit Blossom. I would have been super surprised if Project didn't win here because I feel like it's just been known to be the best too. It's just such a clean skin and it feels great to play with. Veigar. The best Veigar skin hands down was Final Boss Veigar with 46% of the votes. Honestly, I'll be very impressed if Riot ever makes a better Veigar skin than this. It was released 8 years ago, but it still holds up. Vel'Koz. The best Vel'Koz skin by just 0.2% was Black Frost Vel'Koz with 26.1% of the votes. And in a very close second was definitely not Vel'Koz with 25.9%. I'm kind of glad Black Frost won though because it's definitely the better skin. I love the memes, but Black Frost deserves to win. Vex. The best Vex skin out of all 3 of them was Empyrean Vex with 45.3%. To my surprise, this is actually a really good skin. The glow on it looks sick and it stands out really well. I didn't expect much with the Vex having limited options, but I'm pleasantly surprised. Vi. Look how even this graph is. It's almost perfectly spread out, but the winner with 19% of the votes was Project Vi. Overall, it's a pretty good skin. It's obviously a bit outdated, but the Project skin lines have always been pretty solid. Viego. The best Viego skin goes to Dissonance of Pentakill Viego with 30.6%. Honestly, I love the color scheme and sword with this skin. The sound effects are obviously cool since it's a Pentakill skin, but the visuals are great too. Victor. The best Victor skin goes to High Noon Victor with 36.6%. The only problem I have with this is that it's really not a High Noon skin and it's more like a different theme entirely. I mean, it's still cool, but to me, it just doesn't fit with the other High Noon styles. Still cool though. Vladimir. Another pretty spread chart, but the best Vlad skin goes to Cosmic Devourer Vladimir. I actually have this skin and can confirm that it not only looks great, but feels pretty nice to play with as well. It also has some really cool designs with his abilities too. Volibear. The best Voli skin goes to the 1000 Pierced Bear with 30.1%. However, it is worth noting that the Prestige Duality Dragon Volibear was in a very close second with 29.1% and easily could have won if you include the Duality Dragon Volibear votes. Even though the 1000 Pierced Bear technically won, I still have to admit too that I also think Duality Dragon is a better skin, so I'll just leave it at that. Warwick. The best Warwick skin goes to Old God Warwick with 21.1%. Not much to say here other than this is just such a great skin for him. It fits really well and it looks great. Wukong. The best Wukong skin goes to Battle Academia Wukong with 25.1%. I gotta admit, I definitely didn't expect that. Battle Academia is a great skin line and it's not too bad for Wukong either. It's just the newer skin on an old model looks kinda weird. And the face is slightly terrifying too. But it did win in the end, so what do I know? Xayah. The best Xayah skin is Star Guardian Xayah, who got 37.9% of the votes. Not too much to say here either, but what I will say is that Star Guardian is just such a perfect fit for Xayah. I feel like Riot tries to force things on champions sometimes, but in this case it works really well. Xerath. A pretty clear 1v1 battle here, but Arcana Xerath came out on top with 40.8% of the votes. Darkstar did come pretty close though with 39.3%. I think Arcana's skill animations are super clean, but everything else is alright. It's one of those skins I feel like there was a lot of potential in, but it just didn't go that extra mile. Still, it is confirmed as the best Xerath skin, at least for now. Xin Zhao. The best Xin Zhao skin goes to Cosmic Defender Xin Zhao with 24.8% of the votes. I actually really love this skin. The visuals are so smooth and the sound effects are oddly calming. It's just a really satisfying skin to play with. Yasuo. Even though it was fairly even split across the board, the best Yasuo skin title goes to Nightbringer Yasuo with 21.2% of the votes. I feel like this is the patented tryhard Yasuo skin, so I suppose it only makes sense that it's the winner. Admittedly though, it is a very nice skin and the animations and attacks are really fluid. Yone. The best Yone skin goes to Spirit Blossom Yone with 43.6% of the votes. I know Spirit Blossom is milked by Riot a lot, but it really does fit Yone super well. It's one of those skins where everything just seems to make sense. Yorick. The best Yorick skin of course goes to Meow Rick with 47.4% of the votes. The memes once again claim victory, and honestly, how could it not with a skin as good as this? Yuumi. The best Yuumi skin by far was Yubi with 37.9% of the votes. Not too much to say here other than, yeah, it makes sense. It's a very cute skin. An annoying cat, but cute skin. Zac. The best Zac skin goes to Pool Party Zac with 42.7% of the votes. This is a really great skin, but I kind of wish they'd update it with the effects a little. Still, bouncing around as a ball of water is always a good time. Zed. The best Zed skin by far was Galaxy Slayer Zed with 42.2%. This is such a good skin. It's definitely another one of those that not only looks amazing, but feels strong and great to play with. Plus, the crit animation is just straight up crazy. Zeri. The best Zeri skin came down to just really two skins if you don't include the original, and Ocean Song Zeri came out on top. This skin kind of feels like a knockoff version of Pool Party, and it's not the fanciest skin out there, but it has some pretty decent animations. Ziggs. The best Ziggs skin was Ziggs with 32.3% of the votes. I'm definitely gonna get some hate for saying this, but I don't think Ziggs was the best champ for a B-themed skin. It just seemed a little bit forced. Still, it is a fun skin, and I guess that's what counts, right? Zillion. The best Zillion skin was voted to be Winter Blessed Zillion with 36.7% of the votes. I'm honestly just impressed with how good Riot actually got this skin to look, considering Zillion is such a basic champion when it comes to animations. I mean, it wasn't too long ago that this guy looked like a dinosaur because he was so outdated. It's honestly skins like these that really help him keep up with the new kids and stay relevant in this game. Zoe. The best Zoe skin goes to Star Guardian Zoe with 28.6%. Overall, this skin looks really nice, but I don't know if it should be called Star Guardian. I feel like it's more like a Dark Star Guardian. Either way, it still has some amazing effects, and it works really well with Zoe. And finally, we have Zyra. The best Zyra skin goes to Crystal Rose Zyra with 22.5%. It was actually a pretty close race all the way around. Coven Zyra was also pretty close with 21.2%. Anyways, yeah, Crystal Rose is a very nice looking skin, plus it has some pretty great chromas too. Alright, holy crap, that is probably the longest video I'll ever make, but thank you so much to those who stuck around and watched the whole thing. You guys are insane. And shout out to Skin Spotlights for all the skin B-roll footage as well. Also, if you did like the video or appreciate the video, please consider subscribing. It would seriously mean the world to me, as this video took months to make. Anyways, that is it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. A ginormous shout out to my patrons and members for continuously supporting me even though I've been MIA for a while. Thank you so much, WeHat, Sugar Shambles, Orion, Gooseman, Set Riot, Hegel, and another massive shout out to my tier 3 patrons, Stefan, Noctac, Chris, and James. I seriously cannot thank you guys enough. Alright, bye.